we are living in the age of populism. Over the past 2 decades, populist movements have risen all over the world, from India to Italy and from Hungary to the United States. At the same time, and especially during the coronavirus pandemic, conspiracy theories have become more and more visible. Populism and conspiracy theory are obviously connected. Populist leaders employ conspiracist rhetoric far more frequently than other politicians, and many studies have shown that the supporters of populist movements and parties are particularly drawn to conspiracist explanations. However, the exact relationship between these two phenomena remained understudied until the PACT project tackled it. PACT stands for Populism and Conspiracy Theory. It is a project that was conducted between April 2020 and September 2025 at the University of Tübingen in Germany. The project was funded through a consolidated grant from the European Research Council and led by Professor Michael Butter. The PACT researchers studied populism in Austria, Italy, Hungary, Germany, Poland, Brazil, and the United States. They combined the analysis of populist discourses, that is, of speeches, party manifestos, and social media posts, with ethnographic methods. The project's overall goal was to understand under which conditions and to which effects populism and conspiracy theory work together. This video presents the project's major findings. First, however, we need to quickly define the key concepts. Populism is a complex concept. It has been defined as a style, a strategy, or a discourse. For the purposes of this video, we will conceive of it as a thin ideology. While thick ideologies such as fascism or socialism comprise several, usually quite detailed, assumptions about how the world works, thin ideologies are far more rudimentary. They can be imagined as frames that are filled with different content. Thin ideologies therefore never appear in isolation, but always in combination with one or more thick ideologies. The thin ideology of populism claims that society is split into 2 opposing groups, the people and the elite. Populism always sides with the people, who it perceives as neglected, disregarded, and sometimes even betrayed by political, economic, and other elites. The definition of conspiracy theory is less contested. Most scholars agree that conspiracy theories claim that a group of human agents, the conspirators, is secretly manipulating events for sinister purposes. Virtually all conspiracy theories assume that nothing happens by accident, that nothing is as it seems, and that everything is connected. The worldview that leads people to believe in different conspiracy theories is called conspiracism. Conspiracism can also be understood as a thin ideology. Just as populism, it never appears in isolation, but always in combination with one or more thick ideologies. Populism and conspiracism often appear in combination. But why are conspiracy theories sometimes very popular and visible within populist movements or parties, and sometimes nearly invisible? And is there a difference between right-wing and left-wing populism? The research conducted by the PACT project provides answers to these and related questions. Here are the project's key findings. First, the importance of conspiracy theories for a populist movement or party largely depends on the status of conspiracy theories in a specific political culture. In most European countries, conspiracy theories are highly stigmatized. They are not regarded as an acceptable form of knowledge and dismissed and ridiculed by academics, the established media, and most politicians. Accordingly, they are believed only by a minority of the population. By contrast, in several Central and Eastern European countries, but also throughout the Arab world, conspiracy theories are much less or not at all stigmatized. They are regarded as an acceptable and often official form of knowledge. They are believed by a majority of the population, confirmed by academic research, and disseminated through established media. Accordingly, the status of conspiracy theories allows fairly accurate predictions about their importance for populist movements and parties. The more accepted conspiracy theories are in a culture, the more widespread they are in its populist movements and parties too. The United States constitutes a special case. In the country's highly polarized political landscape, conspiracy theories remain stigmatized in some parts of the public, but they have been re-legitimized in others. Second, even in countries in which conspiracy theories are stigmatized, there are populist movements for which conspiracy theories are absolutely central. However, such movements usually remain small, isolated, and short-lived. An example would be the Querdenken movement in Germany, which challenged the official truth about the coronavirus pandemic. Even at its height, in the summer of 2020, it never brought more people to the streets than fit into a medium-sized soccer stadium. Third, in political cultures in which conspiracism is stigmatized, only conspiracy theories about controversial issues lend themselves to the successful integration into populist discourse. In such cases, conspiracy theories do not represent a radical challenge to widely accepted forms of knowledge. Rather, they function as an intensification of similar but non-conspiracist explanations. One can imagine the social debate on topics such as migration or climate change as a continuum with two thresholds. The first threshold separates the mainstream discourse, which may be critical but is widely viewed as legitimate, from the populist intensification that links the issue to other grievances, for example, migration to inflation, unemployment, and problems in the healthcare system, and accuses the political elite of ignoring these problems or addressing them fundamentally incorrectly. The second threshold separates the merely populist perspective from the conspiracist populist one, which does not accuse the elite of inaction or ignorance, but rather claims that it is pursuing a secret plan and deliberately producing the grievances. Fourth, understanding populism and conspiracism as thin ideologies enables us to better understand the affinity of left-wing and right-wing populism for conspiracy theories. Research on right-wing populism emphasizes the importance of conspiracy theories and sometimes even argues that they are a constitutive element of populism. In contrast, scholars focusing on left-wing movements and parties sometimes tend to strip populism of problematic associations, claiming that populism and conspiracy theories are not connected, and that those who postulate such a connection confuse populism with authoritarianism or extremism. However, from Hugo Chavez in Venezuela to the Italian Five-Star Movement, numerous examples can be cited that demonstrate that left-wing populism is by no means immune to conspiracy theories. And yet, conspiracy theories appear to be more closely tied to right-wing populism for two reasons. For one, left-wing thinking has, since Marx, been a thinking in terms of structure. It thus tends to reject the intentionalism typical of conspiracy theories. And secondly, left-wing populism is generally inclusive. The group identified as the elite is strictly distinguished from the people and morally condemned, but the category of the people is conceived in relatively broad terms. Right-wing populism, on the other hand, defines the people much more restrictively. Not all the oppressed belong. Since there are thus several groups of others, it is tempting to postulate relationships between them, which in turn quickly leads to conspiracy theories such as the Great Replacement, which claims that wealthy, sometimes Jewish-identified elites are in cahoots with Muslim migrants. Finally, as the relationship between populism and conspiracy theory plays out very differently depending on the context, it follows that measures intended to combat its often anti-democratic thrust must be customized. One size does not fit all. What works in one national context may not work in another, mostly because of the difference in status that conspiracy theories have in different contexts. This is of particular importance to transnational organizations such as the European Union, which currently tends to develop measures to be applied in all of its member states. Accordingly, it is always important to study each case closely. In the PACT project, we did exactly that. If you would like to learn more about our research on individual countries, we recommend our podcast, Impact Dialogues, and on our website, you will find links to our academic and journalistic publications.